you want to play in clubs, you're going to be required to use their equipment, and all club gear, it's Pioneer, they all have inbuilt screens, which means that they all read USBs. Now, a lot of people talk about taking in their computers to connect them, like while playing, but I'll be honest, right, it's a little bit of a hassle, and sometimes if your computer doesn't have the same firmware as the mixer, it can end up being a real problem and sometimes a nightmare. So I would strongly suggest using USBs when turning up to playing clubs. And to prepare your music to put onto USB, you're gonna have to run it through Rekordbox. So in this video, I'm gonna give you a run through of how to use Rekordbox. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it into 4 main parts. So number 1, how to import your music and make playlists. Number 2, setting and saving cue points. Number 3, finding songs that go well together with the goal of like creating a playlist, right? So that means then when you export your music onto the USB, instead of being on there searching through all your music thinking, what am I gonna play next? You can have the beginnings of a playlist, and that means wherever you go in your playlist, you know that you have songs that have already, like they work well together because you've kind of practiced it on here in Rekordbox on their 2-player mode. And then once you've got your playlist, how to put that playlist onto a USB. So number 1, so this is what it looks like when I open up, it's here, and I just want to actually drag my songs into this. So the first thing to note is when you drag your songs into Rekordbox, Rekordbox doesn't create an actual copy of the song. So what that means is, let's say you've got a folder of music on your desktop and you drag that folder of music from your desktop onto here. Rekordbox is reading it from that source file on your desktop, and what that means is if you were to delete it from the desktop or even move it or rename it, Rekordbox has trouble finding the song, and you go to load it and it says Rekordbox, like the file cannot be found. So what this means is you need to first figure out where you're going to keep your music. Now, if you've got the new Macs that have a lot of like minimum space these days, you might decide to have an external hard drive, and that means whenever you download songs, you drag it into your external hard drive. That's where you keep your music, and then you have that external hard drive connected every single time you're using Rekordbox, and then you can drag your songs from that external hard drive into Rekordbox, and then it's all good. Now, if you take out the external hard drive, you'll still be able to see the songs, but you go to load them and it can't actually like connect to the source, so you won't be able to load them. But it's not like they disappear. You're going to be able to save your cue points and everything, like it remembers all that, but it just has to need to connect to the actual source. So that means then you could have your music in an external hard drive and drag it in from your hard drive into Rekordbox, or maybe you've got a folder of music, like a music folder for instance, or if you're using Macs, maybe you actually drag it in from iTunes. So you just actually put all your music into iTunes, into the library section, and then from there drag it in. But all I'm saying is when I drag it into Rekordbox, I can do whatever I want with it in Rekordbox. I can delete it, put it into different playlists, but you just don't want to mess with the place where your music lives. So you need a central place where you keep your music. Rekordbox is where you prepare your music. So what I've done, for the sake of this video, I generally keep my music in iTunes, but for the sake of this video, I've got like a music folder, and what I can do is, let's say then I've got like a few folders here. So how about I've got the Tech House one? Let's start with that. So let's say then I've got this and I want to drag it in, but when I drag it in, I could drag it into collection here. But that's where all my songs are going to go. I'd like to kind of keep my playlist organized. So I could hit playlist, hit plus, Tech House, maybe Tech House 1, and then I can just drag my songs across into here. Okay, and then it basically analyzes my songs, and there we go. Now once I've got that, okay, I can then, I guess then I could go through and quickly preview my songs. Now to preview my songs, you can just click on the waveform. So I can click there, yeah, and be like, okay, cool. So I'm just clicking on there. And then if you like songs, you could actually go make a sub playlist. So I could hit plus here and maybe call it first mix. And then basically, if I wanted to, find songs I like, and I could drag those songs between the playlists. Now, if you delete it from one playlist, it doesn't matter, it's just deleted from that playlist. But when I dragged it in, it's actually been added to the collection. So unless you delete it from the collection, that will delete it from the collection in general. But if you want to just delete it from certain playlists, it will stay in the other playlists as well. So, okay, so I've got my playlist of songs. So that's how to make a playlist. I think that's all fairly straightforward. But another thing, just housekeeping, if you want to change what you see up the top here, so you might have all these different options here, like, artwork, for instance. So I can go change the fields that I see by just, see on the sets track title here, I can click in the space next to that. And I can actually, so I go in there and I right click and I can tick the fields that I want to see. So for instance, if I want to see the rating, I tick rating, and now rating comes up. I might untick rating because I don't really use that, but some people might. So I've gone and done, so it's a preview, track title, artist, BPM, and I've got the keys in the comments field, which, if you're not sure about that, check out the mixing key video. Okay, so now the next thing is setting cue points. So what I could do is, let's say I want to set cues, I can go load the song up and just set a cue point. Let's say for now, well, I want to put a cue on the first beat, for instance. I could find it there, and I could set a cue by going cue, and I can save it by hitting memory. Now, understand, there are different types of cues you can set. You can set memory cues and also hot cues. Now, hot cues, that's these letters down here, and that actually represents the pads on most controllers. So you've got like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and what happens is, if I hit my hot cue, then when I hit the pad, it's like hitting that, and what happens is, you can kind of jump around the song real time. It's a lot of fun. But the reason I gravitate around memory cues a lot in the course is because I'm preparing people to get ready to play in clubs. And when turning up to play in clubs, not all club equipment reads hot cues. So what happens is, if you've just set all these hot cues, like these letters at the bottom, and then turn up and the club doesn't read it, then you're not going to be able to access or see any of your cue points. So all club equipment reads memory cues. So if you want to play it safe, I'd probably actually be setting memory cues personally. Okay, so I've got a memory cue on the first beat. And then another thing that you might notice you have when setting cue points, like in and out points. So let's say I'm playing it from the beginning in this case, right? And then let's say I want to, maybe I want to find a cool place to mix. And maybe I'm previewing the song. I can click on the waveform. I'm thinking, wow, there's a lot going on there. And maybe I could find where it drops off. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. It creates a nice platform for me to mix. Like, that's coming in after the chorus. So what I could do is I can go find that bit. See, I just dragged on the waveform here, found that one beat, and then I want to instead of putting a cue there, I actually want to give myself some time to beat match. Now, how much time you give yourself to beat match does depend a little bit on the genre of music you're playing. So for instance, if I was doing the heavier styles of dance or more commercial music in general, I'd probably just go back 8 bars. And to do that, you can go over here to the beat jump section to the left-hand side, go and select 8 bars. Don't select 8 beats. 8 beats is 2 bars. You want to go to 8 bars, and then using these arrows, or the arrows on my computer, I can actually jump back 8-bar intervals. So say I want to mix there, I could actually jump back 8 bars and set a cue point by going cue and memory, or keyboard shortcut C for cue and memory, not shift C or anything, just C, straight up M. So C and M to save that. But for the deeper kinds of house, personally, I think the transitions might be better like drawn out further, because you get like bigger intros and outros and longer to do your mix. So personally, for the deeper kinds of house, I'd probably go put a cue point 16 bars back. So if I actually thinking, oh, okay, wow, I want to mix in there where it drops off, and I want to jump back 16, I could jump back 8 and then another 8. And I could go cue and memory. And if you wanted to delete that cue point, well, that's the third cue point now. So I go over here to the memory bank, 1, 2, 3, delete the third one. And then I've just got those 2 points. But then sometimes the song might go really well. So you might want a couple of mix out points depending on like crowd response. So what I could do is I could go look for where it drops off near the end of the song. Bang. Okay, and I can go and find that, select that point, jump back again, maybe 8, maybe 16, depending on genre, cue, and memory. Now, okay, so I've actually got videos, right, on exactly where to set cue points for the different types of genres, right? This is more like how to use Rekordbox and how to set cue points. So what I'm more interested in this video is how to set cue points, which is cue and memory, or if you're setting hot cues, these pads down here. And then actually how to jump 8-bar intervals. So that means, say you want to replace the drop with EDM, you can find the drop, and instead of putting a cue point on the drop, maybe you go back like a couple of phrases to give yourself some time to mix it in. And by setting cue points and jump, so this is more about setting cue points, knowing how to jump 8 bars, and just learning how to kind of like, set cues in general. Check out the videos on where to set cues, just so you know all about that. And if you haven't got the online course, if this is part of my Sydney DJ School thing, just check out the workbook, it's got it all. Or otherwise consider getting the online course, which is really incredible value, like trust me, anyway, that's another thing. But okay, so once I've gone and set cue, well actually I'll do another one. So how about I go here, how about I grab, this song, I go in, put a cue on the first beat for now, okay? And then maybe if I want to come in after the chorus, find where the chorus ends, and here in the middle, maybe jump back 16, because this is like a bit more techie. cue, memory. Maybe I have another option near the end based on crowd response. Okay, there's the one. Going back 8, 16, cue, and memory. Okay, and yeah, so that's how to set cue points. But again, which parts of the song you play and how much of each song you play is completely up to you. But at the moment, this is just how to set cues, like cue and memory, jumping back 8-bar intervals, giving yourself some time to mix in. Okay, so once you've set a bunch of cue points, what I'd suggest is maybe make a playlist of like 10 songs that you think you might want to play, like if you're playing at a club, or songs that you like. Maybe then go set like a whole bunch of cue points for those, like in and out points. And then once you've done that and you've got a whole bunch of cue points, then I might go over here to 2-player mode to try and find songs that go well together. So I've got player 1 at the top here. I can hit play. Okay, and if I wanted to go to the first cue, I could hit here and go to the first cue at the beginning here. Or I can go to the second cue, third cue, or you can actually drag it to the beginning as well. So you can just actually go click on the waveform. So I could just drag it to the beginning. I kind of like doing that. I find it's a bit quicker. And then if you like, you can hit play, cue to go back to the cue point. So I'll go back to this first cue, cool, play, cue, cue. Okay, so now let's say I want to put that other song on the other side. I drag it into the bottom player. And it's already at that cue, otherwise I could drag it onto there, or I could actually go over to the right hand side here in the cue point panel and take it to that cue point. But then the next thing is we want to check the BPM. So that's 125, that's 126. I can type the BPM I want to change it to. So I just, 125. And then that's fine. But if you are moving the BPM, you want to make sure the master tempo is on. This is the key lock, so I make sure that is on for both players. If I have that on, that holds the original sound of the song. So it's like the master tempo button above the tempo faders here. Like it's like an anti-chipmunk button in a way. It holds the original key. Okay, so now, then, if I was to beat match just quickly, say I've got my crossfader here to go between deck A and B. I'll have it in the middle so we can hear both songs. And let's say I just hit play randomly at the moment. What you want to do is you want to line up these beats. Now I can do that with these arrows underneath on each deck, right? So if I move that now, well, that's right. I lined them up, see? And I did that visually. See, if I kept hitting it, I've gone too far. So you pull it back and you line them up, and that's how you beat match. But it's not like you could actually do that in your headphones. Like if you put your headphones on, you're only going to hear what would be coming through the computer speaker now. So for instance, if I've got my crossfader up to deck A and I hit play on deck B, I'm not going to be able to hear that. So this isn't actually for practicing beat matching. It's more for finding songs that go well together. So to be honest, for that reason, I would probably just hit sync. Now, if I have sync on both players, like look, I've got this one. I haven't got sync on the bottom player yet, but look what happens. I'll hit play, and look, the beats are a little bit out. If I hit sync, it actually locks the beats into sync. Now, personally, I would never use sync on actual equipment that has jog wheels because I think it's important. I like beat matching, but I think it's important to keep your beat matching practice up because not all equipment has sync in the clubs. And if you turn up and you don't know how to beat match, it could be a little bit of a shock. So personally, I always beat match, always, right, when using equipment. But on here, this doesn't even have jog wheels. This isn't about practicing beat matching. This is just finding songs that go well together. So I probably would have sync on just so I don't have to go through the fiddliness of lining up the lines. But it's your call. Sometimes you might have sync on. It still doesn't do a perfect job. And you might use these arrows as well on either deck just to kind of like line it up because it might come in and it sounds a bit off. So you might just use those as well. And you'll see what I mean as you start experimenting with it. So okay, so let's give it a go. So I've got the crossfader up to deck A. I'll hit play. And let's say now I'm going to mix my new song in at the out point in the middle here. So I might just click on the waveform a little bit before that cue point. I see it coming up. I go down to deck B and I hit play, bottom left here. Okay, and I've hit play. Now we can't hear it because my crossfader is actually on deck A. Look, if I go down deck B, that's my new one, and deck A. So I wouldn't do that live. That was just to show you. So let's say now, not that I use this live, but I mean, I just, yeah. So okay, so I'm coming in over the end of the song. Now I'm hearing both songs together because I've got my crossfader in the middle. And then maybe I'll let them play together for a bit. Let's see what happens. Okay, cool. And they're actually sounding really good together. And I'm liking that a lot, actually. Okay, cool, and I like that a lot. So maybe now I'll try another one. And you could keep going. So you could just go load another song up into the top player, hit Q, go to the beginning, maybe fast forward to that point. Hit play. Now this top one doesn't have Q points. I didn't set Qs for it, but I'm just sort of messing around at this point. Okay, this is good. I've had a lot of luck here. What you'll find is sometimes you go on a roll, you find ones that really work and sometimes ones that don't. Let's see what happens now. Okay, cool. So the goal of this though is to kind of find songs that go well together, but when you do, to craft a playlist. Now, if I hit above track title here, what it does is if I go, I can't move the order of the songs. And what I want to do now is I want to actually put my songs into order. So if you want to do that, hit above number here. So see, it says number. See, I've got preview next to that number. So I hit number and make it say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, for instance. And then what we did was we went "Ya Kidding" first. So I dragged that up to the first song. Whoops. Drag that up to number 1. Oh gee, what isn't? Oh, sorry. What's going on? So I hit that again. Okay. Yeah, cool. Drag that up to number 1. So if it doesn't work, just hit above the number again. I don't know why that happened. So "You're Kidding." Then I went to body, and then I went that Bunda song. Okay, and then I'm starting to get the beginnings of a playlist. So what I'll do is, so set your cues, then hop into 2-player mode, find songs that go well together, craft a playlist, which can honestly be so addictive and so much fun. And then once you've got the playlist, then the last step is to put it onto a USB. Okay, so I get my USB stick, put that into the USB port on my computer, okay? And then once I've done that, that should come up down here. So it's just reading it. I don't want that, so I just cancel that. So it's coming down and see there it is, no name. That's the name of my device, so there it is. And basically all I do is to get my playlist on there, I can select the playlist and drag it onto the USB. Now, if you're like me and you've got a lot of playlists though, and it's a long way to drag it, you could also right click on the playlist and go export playlist and then go to the USB. So I'll do that now. I do it and now see it's exporting. Right, so it's just exporting. There's a loading bar at the bottom, and if I scroll down now, look, I can't exit this USB because it's going no, you can't do it because it's got a little like no, don't eject me, because it's actually in the middle of loading, and you just wait for it to finish loading, and then that's going to put that playlist with those cue points in that order on that USB, and then I can turn up, put that into the club, like the stuff, and I'm ready to go. And I can show you that in a second. So I come in, but let's say you're not actually using USBs, you've actually got like Rekordbox DJ. Well, personally, if you've got Rekordbox DJ up here, this might say trial to you. See in the top left corner? And that means then that's where you go to performance mode for if you're using it with a controller. Now, if you've got a controller, you probably get the license key to make that free, right? Otherwise, you get a 30-day trial, but there's no point doing the trial unless you've got equipment to use it with anyway. And if you've got equipment to use it with, well, you get the license key for it. But what happens, because I've already got the license key up here, I've got different options. I've got export, performance, and lighting. Now, lighting, that's just actually so you can use this as, you can MIDI map all this lighting in a club to this. There's not like there's lighting inside your computer that's going to operate. It doesn't work like that. So no, it's more like you can use this as MIDI mapping for lighting, which you probably don't have. So we'll leave that for now. And then you've got export and performance mode. Now export is what I've just walked through, and export is where I do all my preps. You know, even if you've got a controller, I'd still be preparing my music in export mode, because in export mode, I can actually go to 1-player mode. I can actually then jump back 8-bar intervals, and it's a lot easier to set cue points here in 1-player mode. So I can go there, set cues, I can go find parts and jump back intervals and stuff, 8, 16, that kind of stuff. So I can go in there, set a whole bunch of cues, and that's where I'll do that in export mode. But then once you've set your cues personally, instead of just hitting performance or putting your music directly on a USB, I probably would go to 2-player mode with the goal of finding songs that go well together, crafting my playlist, and then when I've done that, I'd put my playlist onto my USB, or if you've got performance mode, click over here to performance. And then now I'm in performance mode. Then I can actually connect it, and then when I hit play and stuff, it's actually on my controller. It's going to play through here. But I've got another video on using performance mode. You should definitely check that out. So now, the only other thing is sometimes you might go load your song and maybe the actual beat grid's wrong. Okay, and see what I mean is this red dot here is meant to be the first beat of each bar, and have a look. It's actually the red dot here is on the wrong beat. So what I could do is, that doesn't happen that often. It's probably more likely to happen with R&B and pop music, where maybe Rekordbox has had trouble analyzing the song. So what I could do is you just go find where the one beat would be, drag the waveform onto that beat, and then then you go grid, and then hit this little red and white dot, and then basically it realigns your grid. So okay, so let's say then, so I've done that. If I go back to cue and loop now to set the loops, but actually I'll go through that one more time. So in short, drag that onto where the beat should be, hit grid, hit this little red dot, and again it realigns it. So grid and this little one. Okay, so I'll go back to cue loop. So I want to set a cue on that first beat, C for cue and M for memory. And I can go find where I want to mix, and then decide whether to put a cue point on that point, or actually go back 8 or 16 bars to give myself time to beat match.